All right, Meghann, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you on here because you have quite the story, and I think it's not a story that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. I think that a lot of people end up with struggling with psychiatric disorders. They end up taking a slew of medications, and then they're almost trapped on them because of all of the things that they have to go through in order to get off of them. So I love your story. I think it's inspirational, and I'm really looking forward to you kind of telling us about your journey and where you're at now as far as all that stuff goes.
All right. Thank you for having me. So my journey is super messy and all over the place. So bear with me. But it really started at age 9. My parents medicated me for OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. They took me to therapy. We tried to, work things out that way, and it just wasn't happening. So they thought they were doing the best thing for me. Placed me on medications at age 9. I started around right after being prescribed meds. I had a bunch of weight gain. I didn't think of it at the time then because I didn't know any better, but basically the meds pretty much took away my childhood, lost my imagination. My brain was foggy all the time. I could sleep for hours on end. I was just living like a zombie. My relationship with food got really bad because I did start to gain weight, and then I was bullied, which stemmed with me my entire life with body image issues and really just disordered eating behaviors. So let's see, age 16, that's when I started to get into fitness, started really seeing results. And I thought that if I could at least be pretty, I would have something to offer the world. So that's where my addiction to fitness kind of began. I was off, seeking attention, just because I wanted to be loved, because I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel smart enough because these medications just, took life from me, and I didn't know any better. I just thought this was life. So whatever, I'm this crazy child, crazy, party girl. Age 20, I get pregnant. Knew my daughter's father for 3 weeks, and I was given an ultimatum, basically decide to give life or go the other direction. And I knew that I couldn't live with myself if I had chosen something else. So I decided to go on with having my child. Best thing that ever happened to me, turned my life around, and I got my shit together. So here I am still on medications. Oh, not to mention during my pregnancy was miserable. Ben & Jerry's was my best friend. I ate and slept for 9 months. When I got home from the hospital, I was 200 pounds, and knew that I needed to get the weight off. So there we go again, living in the gym to get back to the weight that I was. So I ended up working a bunch of different jobs, was miserable, unhappy, so tired of being a zombie, anxious, depressed, suicidal ideations, just like I thought that, happiness was fake. Like I didn't think it existed. So 25 came around. I was going to be getting off of my parents' insurance, and I knew that I needed to be able to afford these medications. And I had a sleep study done because my sleep was just so bad. I would literally scream in my sleep, kick, just like I could sleep for 16 hours a day and still not feel rested. So I went to a sleep doctor. He said to me, you should really consider getting off of the medications you were on. I thought he was completely crazy. Like, oh my gosh, no way, I could never get off of those. Long story short, he's like the greatest doctor that I've probably ever met. But I didn't know any better than them. So anyways, 25 came around. I was like, okay, I got to figure out how I'm going to pay for these medications. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try getting off of them. And my friend had encouraged me at the time, like, you should really do some research and consider getting off of these things. And I was just like, that's like crazy. I don't know life without them. And anyways, I decided to do some research. I found a book called Anatomy of an Epidemic. And this is the book that literally changed my life for forever. I remember reading it and just kind of like going through it and just kind of feeling like my whole life had been a lie, or like it had been taken away from me, just because it basically stated what these medications do to you. And it was everything that I had lived. And I was so pissed off and angry. And I basically cold turkeyed off of these medications. I was on Effexor, clomipramine, and Adderall. So I was kind of like on a combination of a cocktail of drugs, if that's what you want to call it. So basically, I cold turkeyed, which I strongly suggest nobody ever does. It's dangerous. So I did. And it was basically 5 years of psychiatric drug withdrawal. Basically, my brain stopped working on me, if I can compare it to anything. It was basically like many days, it was like doomsday, like barely could get out of bed. But I remember I was determined to get through this and get to the other side. And I was so upset and pissed off, and was not going to be another victim to big pharma. They had already taken so much life from me. That is what pushed me through. And in those 5 years, I accomplished more than I had in my entire life. I went and I got my certified personal trainer cert, and I decided to become a firefighter and an advanced emergency medical technician. And during this time, my eating disorder got really, really bad, manifested itself. I was binging and purging, and it was ugly. And so probably 5 years into psychiatric drug withdrawal, things were starting to get good. I was starting to feel like a human again. And I was like, you know what? The worst is over. Like, I've got this. I was about to start my new career in the fire service. And I had a training burn one day. And after that training burn, I went on this crazy binge and purge. I binged and purged so many times that day, I lost count. And I remember being in the bathroom and just like spinning, and my heart was palpitating. And I was like, you know what, Meg, you're a fraud. You are a fraud. You are preaching health and fitness. You're about to start a full-time, job in the fire service. You need to be at your healthiest, because you've got people to protect, and you're sick, and you're going to die if you don't get your shit together. And so that was just like a switch. And my parents had been living the ketogenic lifestyle for like a year and a half. My dad had lost 100 pounds, was running half marathons off all of his high blood pressure medications. He reversed his type 2 diabetes, like amazing stuff. And they were like, you know what? A lot of people have been able to get their eating disorders under control. Why don't you just try this? And I was like, you know what? I've got nothing else to lose. I mean, I was just a broken record with my eating disorder. And so they referred me to this eating disorder food addiction program through a keto evangelist, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And it was an 8-week course, and it did it for me. Like, that was it. It was about food addiction. So yes, I am a 100% food addict. You have your abstainers, and then you have people who can moderate. I have to completely abstain. And it was going through the stages of grieving, knowing that I can't have ice cream again, or I can't have this again. I can't touch sugar. That's like you giving me like an alcoholic a beer and just have one. It does not work. So it was me having an understanding of, okay, I am a food addict. I have an eating disorder. This is something that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. But I have to wake up every day and make that choice if this is the life that I want to live. And I do that every single day. A lot of people look at my life as restrictive. It is not restrictive. It is freedom. I'm not obsessing about food. I'm not controlled by it. Life is good. So anyways, eating disorder gets into control, start my new career. 2 months into my career, I am on a late night EMS call, and I was climbing out of the ambulance. And so like our ambulance is pretty high. I missed the step, and so the step's probably 3 feet. I'm about 5 feet. So it was about an eight foot blow to the head, landing on my head, going unconscious. Suffered with what they call mild TBI, but it was super far from mild. So during this time, I'm like, I came out of it and I was like, oh, I'm fine. And a year and a half later, I've lost my career in the fire service. I still have, TBI symptoms on the regular, but I think there's a trade-off with everything in life. I think my accident happened for a reason. It sucks to lose your career. But if my accident didn't happen, I wouldn't have been afforded the opportunity to pursue my number one passions, which is health and, fitness. So I was afforded that opportunity. But so yeah, life has been messy. And that's really the gist right there.
Okay, so there are so many things that you touched on here that I want to go back to and visit. But the biggest one is you talking about moving into a ketogenic lifestyle and other people thinking that it's restrictive. And I know that you and I both probably all see this. I can't tell you, I was just thinking this today. You have so many, especially on Instagram, you have so many coaches and people out there that you see, and they shame other people for the way that they live their life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's gotten almost terribly aggressive. You'll see people's reels and they're like slapping the phone and they're like, you don't have to restrict to be successful. And like, they're like, no carbs is not the right way. And like, you see so many people, or no fat, or it goes in every direction, right? You see all of these people that shame people for their choices and the things that work for them. And I think sadly, we live in such a judgmental society when it comes to that, when I think that it doesn't matter what you're preaching or what you're putting out there. I mean, I'm not an advocate of some of the things that people preach as far as health goes. However, I think that opening people's eyes to possibilities is an extremely important thing. And so I love the way that you put all of that. You were like, listen, I realize that I cannot do this, and that it's actually freedom for me to abstain from sugars and all of these things.
Right.
And so I really loved the way that you formulated that there by saying that, because a lot of people don't realize how things work for everybody and how individual things can be.
It's so individualized. And that's why you can't be judgmental, like I have found what has worked for me, and you have to find out what works for you. And I'm not going to shit on you for, eating the way that you eat. This is the way that I eat because this is how I thrive,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love all of what you're saying there. So I kind of also want to go back and I want to touch on the psychiatric drug withdrawals, because this is a crazy thing, right? Everybody, I mean, I can't tell you how many people have been in your position. They want to get off these medications, but they are slaves to them. And
it's so true.
Yeah. And like you said, getting off of them, the ramifications of that are so hard. How do you know if you can press through or not? And I think that is a question that everybody that is a slave to the pharmaceutical industry is experiencing. Is it is so hard to get off of them that they're afraid to even try.
Yeah. So this topic is extremely close to my heart, and I'm going to try really hard to not get choked up about it. But you go into your doctor's office for a checkup, for a follow-up, right? One of the first questions you're asked is, are you anxious? Are you depressed? How are you feeling? Okay. And then how many people are going to say yes, right? We live in such a fast-paced society. The demands are just outrageous. Oh, ADD, ADHD. Yeah, our heads are going like this in 500 directions because there's so much to be expected of us. And not to mention, and I'm not saying I don't want people to think I'm crapping on all doctors, because I'm not. However, a lot of doctors are pedal pushers for the drug companies. They go to school for pharmacology. They don't go to school for wellness. Okay. So instead of saying, are you anxious and depressed? Why don't you ask us what's going on in your life? Stuff like that. And me, like age 9, honestly, my obsessive compulsive disorder, I think a lot of the mental health issues today are stemmed from our microbiome. 100%. They have done studies showing schizophrenia, ADHD, just, not to mention leaky gut syndrome. Probably most Americans have leaky gut syndrome. And if we're not absorbing all of our nutrients, guess where everything else is going? It's going into the bloodstream. And we've got a lot of stuff going on. So anyways, back to psychiatric drug withdrawal. Doctors, I don't believe, know how to safely wean patients off medications. Like for me, I mean, you're placed on a medication, and I'm not saying that medications can't help you. I'm sure maybe they can, but I think long-term they're like, yeah, it's going to hurt you more. Instead of going to the doctor and asking for a pharmaceutical, you should be doing everything else. And that means like dialing in to your nutrition, because food is medicine. I am living proof of that. I am not on any medications anymore. And this is somebody who was medicated for 17 years. It took me a long, long time to get here. And I'm still healing my body. I'm still healing my gut. But there is a resource called, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right. It's Inner Compass Initiative. And it is actually my friend Laura Delano, who was on benzos for years, and her psychiatric drug withdrawal just was terrible, and she was like borderline ready to kill herself. And this is her life mission, is to basically help people wean off of these drugs, because there's such a need for it, and doctors are not helping with it. So basically, to do this, you want to be super smart about it if you want to come off of your medications, and you got to make sure that you have a super strong support system. Know your why and why you're doing this. So people will wean off the meds, right? And then they'll legit go crazy and feel like they're losing their minds. Like, hello, I've been there. But you have to know that the sick cycle is so like, all right, you're starting to wean, right? You feel like you're losing your mind. And then you're like, oh, I really am crazy. I need these medications. So you go back, and it's just this circle. And I think it's just when you do feel like you're losing your mind, you have to literally tell yourself, this is part of the process. I'm not going to be stuck here forever. The healing process is not linear. It's super long. And I think for me, like it took me 5 years. I personally think it took me 5 years because I cold turkeyed. Like, think about it this way. You're feeding your body neurotoxins for God knows how long you've been doing it. And then you just take them away. Like you're going to go crazy. So I think if you are, in a place where you're thinking about getting off of medications, you really need to be your biggest advocate. Do your own research. I'm not saying don't go to your doctor and talk about it. I don't want to say that and piss anyone off, but literally put your trust in other places, and not just your doctor who's been to medical school. Like read books, research, like the website that I just mentioned. There's a thing called 10% taper, and it's basically how to wean off at really, really slow pace, because I think weaning off at a slower pace is a lot safer than just cold turkeying. Don't do it. I mean, if I could have gone back, it would have just been a much slower taper, and maybe I wouldn't have, gone through everything I did.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Okay, so and I love that you brought that up there, because especially the part where you go in the doctor's office and they ask about all these. I mean, you said so many great things there. So let's start with that though. Okay, so doctors are not taught how to heal things. And I kind of explain this like the car that's smoking, there's all this smoke coming out the tailpipe. And instead of figuring out why all the smoke is coming out the tailpipe, they just stick a lemon in it and they call it good. And
yeah.
And it's not because they're bad doctors. There are so many doctors that became a doctor to help people in the first place. But the sad part is it's their education that is flawed. Their education is solely backed by people that have interest in them selling their products. And so with that being said, they never they think they're being taught something, as far as how to help someone, but that something is that they're being taught is how to prescribe something. It's not actually how to fix the actual root cause. And so that is the unfortunate part about Western medicine.
Yeah. And I think too, like I look at, me getting off of medications was the beginning of self-discovery for me. And there is just so much information out there, and it can get so overwhelming. Like, what's the right resource? Who do I listen to? She's doing this, they're doing that. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So when we get into a place like that, I think we have to be like, okay, we have to look at our own personal selves as our own experiment, and truly experiment and see what works best for us and what's not. This person may be able to eat all vegetables and be thriving. This person may be eating all meat and feel amazing, and or just a bunch of different things. It just be like, be your biggest advocate, and also be your like biggest experiment, because when we are open-minded to trying new things, magic happens.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's the truth. I mean, you see so many people where they're like, "Oh, well, I went vegan and I lost like this much weight or this happened." And it's like, well, I think that it's not necessarily veganism or whatever you did, counting macros. I think it's the awareness around what you're doing and all of a sudden setting intention around
Right.
the stuff that you're feeding yourself. And I think when you start to be more aware of what you're feeding yourself, major changes happen.
Yeah, and I think so many of us, including myself, not so much anymore, but I mean, who doesn't want to look good? We all want to look good. But I think we really need to stop chasing weight loss and really start chasing health. And once we start chasing health, everything else follows. Like for me, like, the fitness junkie I was. And yes, I mean, sure, you want to still call me a fitness junkie? Yeah, I love fitness, but I have finally found that balance, um, I think that we need to really just focus on chasing health, and everything else is going to follow. I was just going to say something and I'm pissed off because I totally forgot what it was. What it was. It was going to be good, but yeah.
Yeah, so something else that you did bring up there too was the gut. And so like that's one thing that's becoming more and more popular now. People are talking about gut health and how much it impacts everything, and it especially your mood. Your gut is your second brain. All of your happy hormones are made in your gut, serotonin, and it's so important to have those. And when your gut is dysfunctional, it's causing all sorts of problems. It's causing your hormones to be disrupted. I actually just did an Instagram post on this today.
Oh,
But anyway, it's causing your hormones to be disrupted. And then also, like you said, when you have stuff that starts to cross into the bloodstream that is not meant to, that can be a real recipe for disaster, because then you have inflammation on top of all of these hormonal disturbances going on in the gut, and it is like a big soup of scariness going on as far as mental and physical everything goes.
totally. And like, so for me, like right now, I'm mostly meat based, just because I do better with a meat based diet. And some people will think I'm totally crazy, like, oh my God, like you eat so much meat. And like for me, I have done, and like I said, everybody's different and likes what they like. But like for me, like I have done a little research in the sense of, you know, there is so much anti-nutrients in vegetables that we're eating. We've got lectins, we've got oxalates, we've got phytates. So a lot of these anti-nutrients actually inhibit mineral and vitamin absorption. So, and they can actually cause leaky gut syndrome. Also, a lot of the plants and vegetables that we're eating today, they don't carry nearly the amount of nutrients they did the years that our ancestors were consuming them because of the soil today. So, not to mention the pesticides and herbicides that are on them that we're also consuming, that is terrible for our gut. And so, do I like vegetables? Yeah, I totally do. Do I do better without them? Yeah, I do. So, like it's what works best for you. But I have found for me, like once you really like eliminate everything in your diet and you slowly start to bring some stuff back in, you know right away what works for you and what doesn't. So yeah, gut health is definitely a huge topic, and I feel like there's still so much to learn. I don't think like we still know what we're doing with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was just like thinking the other day, it's funny. You get stuck in these rabbit holes and I was totally going, "Man, I just wish that I understood everything about this." And that's the thing, right? You have these people out there claiming they're these experts in these fields when I don't think there is a such thing. I really
No,
just
there's
don't.
not.
I think that you have to just implement a certain practice, and over time it's going to continuously morph and change and you're going to learn more. And I just think that that's kind of where all of this is going in the first place. And I think if anybody is struggling with their health or their mental health, definitely starting picking one thing and sticking to it ritualistically for 30 days is a great place to start.
Yeah, and not to mention, we're so used to the quick fixes, right? Like there's a quick fix for everything. And I think true health, healing, wellness, like it's not quick. It's not quick. It's you either want it or you don't. You've got to be willing to say goodbye to things that are potentially killing you and destroying you, no matter how much you love them, if you want to be healthy. And it's making sacrifices. It's not easy, but if you can be like well and feel the best that you've ever felt, like why wouldn't you do that, you know?
Absolutely. And
it's
I've
it's
kind of
not a it's not an overnight thing.
no,
Sorry,
and
I
I've
cut you off.
no, that's okay. There's a little bit of delay. There always is when we do these kind of videos, but yeah, and that was one thing I've kind of found myself dissecting in my mind is some people, even though they're super unhealthy, they are on this quest to get healthy, and other people who are super unhealthy, they just straight up don't care.
Yeah.
And that's the area where, I mean, I have family members that are struggling with obesity and being on all sorts of medications and all of these things that could be fixed through changing their diet. But here's the thing, they don't want to. Like
Right.
that, they think that they can't be happy without without, having all of these things like eating only
It's
cookie and
true.
ice cream and only doing stuff like that. I mean, I recently was somewhere where the family, I don't even think probably ate 10 grams of protein throughout the whole day.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, wow, I mean, you're on all these medications, you're doing all these things. Like, at what point I guess what point do you want to change or don't want to change? And that's when I realized that some of these people don't want to change. And so you have to, when somebody's ready to change, they are ready, and it may be an experimentation process, or maybe they're a person that is just never going to be a problem. And I think you can kind of assimilate that with like other addictions like smoking or
Yeah.
drugs or alcoholism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, like it's different for everybody. Like you can be 300 pounds and still not be ready to make that decision yet. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but sometimes it takes you to like a chronic illness or like getting wicked sick. And maybe sometimes that isn't even enough. But like for me, like it was a switch. Like I was the day that I was in the bathroom and like throwing up, and I'm like, dude, I was gonna die. Like you have a choice. Or it's like, do you want life or do you want death? And you got to make that decision. And not everybody's there, and not everybody's willing to give up you know their addictions to food, sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, and they got to get there in their own time.
Absolutely. And I love that you said all of that. And and the funny thing is that at this, I get made fun of about the fact that I eat extremely healthy and I'm huge into nutrition. Um, and everywhere I
Yeah, right. We
go,
all get made fun of.
it's like everywhere I go, I get this constant shitstorm about what I'm eating
Yeah.
and like interrogated about what I'm eating, and oh, you wouldn't eat that though, would you? And like things like that. And the thing is it's like, well, yeah, I can eat that. There's no, oh, You can't eat that, can
Right.
you? I can freaking eat whatever the hell I want. Is it
I'm
gonna
choosing not to.
Yeah, is it gonna help me?
Yeah.
Probably not. And I know what it feels like to have chronic disease. I've been there multiple occasions, and it's not something I want in my life. I want to enjoy my life. I
Yes.
want to be able to think clearly. I want to be able to function well for my children. I want to be present. I don't want to be a slave to pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
I want all of these things. And so I don't want other things because of that. And that's my choice. It's
Right.
not my can't have this or can't have that.
Yeah, totally. And I think too, if people would just educate themselves, because let me tell you, the more you know, that's like what keeps you away from putting certain things into your mouth. You don't even want them. Yeah, when my daughter has a bowl of ice cream, do I think it looks good? Yeah, but I know what it does to me. So why the hell do I want it? I don't. I really don't. But no, I think too, like you have to, when you live the life that you do, the restrictive life that you do, even though we don't think it's restrictive, yeah, you do get a lot of shit, but you also have to be like super comfortable with it and just not care. And I know you don't, and I sure as hell don't. And I mean, like you said, we choose not to, put certain things into our mouth because we enjoy our quality of life.
Absolutely. And I love I love that you said all that because it's the truth. Like we like that would be like, I guess I would assimilate that with a smoker or someone like that. They know that what they're doing is not good for them and they continue to do that, but unfortunately, that's not a place I ever want to be, and I want to try to stay as healthy as possible. So
Yeah. Do you just like eating at home way better now? Because I can just tell you, like, I don't even like going out to dinner anymore. It stresses me out. When I do, I have to, I'm that girl that everybody hates. And I just like, I don't trust it. So I'm just like, you know what? Eating at home, I can eat for cheaper and the food is just way better. And I know what's going into it.
that's definitely one thing I've tried to explain to my family members as well. You can eat good food that is healthy for you too. And so
Right.
it's like I've gotten so used to eating real food that when I go to a restaurant, it all just tastes the same. It all tastes fake.
Yeah.
And
You're like, oh,
yeah,
totally.
and it's just I don't even care to do it anymore. I enjoy what I have at home. It saves me
Me
so
too.
much money. I mean, I hear that from clients constantly too. It's like, well, I can't afford to meal prep this week. But then I see on Instagram 100 posts of them eating out, eating sushi, eating this, eating that. And it's like, well, I can prep for my 2 weeks for my whole family for a couple $100. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that you probably ate a couple $100 in like 2 or 3 meals going out. So, I mean, you have to understand when you start saying, I can't afford something because that's the other side of the argument, right? You need to look at what you're spending your money at because it is not that expensive to eat real food. You don't have to go over the top and like go buy the most expensive things you can find out there.
It's so true. It's so true. And like, yeah, I eat a lot of meat, but I'm going to be honest, I can't afford to eat grass-fed organic all the time. I do what I can, but it also doesn't make me a terrible person for buying, not completely organic meat either. And it's healthier than a box of Cheerios, you know?
Ab- Absolutely. And it's kind of funny because I go through stages of how I'm eating or whatever. And I was like, I'm starting to have a little bit of digestive distress, probably because I've been I wouldn't say off the wagon, but I've been eating out here and there because I've been traveling, and then like I'll make a compromise and I'll have something that's sweetened with like erythritol or something.
Right. Dude, those sugars, the fake sugars, they mess you up.
Oh yeah, and I mean I religiously avoid sucralose and aspartame and all that stuff, but I was like, oh, erythritol, I can do a little of that, and the next thing you know,
Yeah.
I do a little more. I compromise myself into like a bad place or a bad corner, and that's why I think it's better to just set your boundaries so you're not compromising yourself all over the
It's so
place.
true. It is, but at the end of the day too, we are human beings, and I try to give myself like a little grace. Like for me, like I still eat dairy, not a lot, because I do better without it. But every now and then I put cream. I like to put cream in my coffee. God forbid I put cream in my coffee. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like that compromise, and just remembering that, we are human beings still, and like it's okay if we go off plan for a minute.
Absolutely. And that's funny you talk about dairy, because that's actually one of my weaknesses. And so, I told my husband I've been traveling, I've been super, off my normal routine. And so I'm like, I think I'm going to do 30 days of carnivore. I always feel great when I do some straight up carnivore reset going on. And he was like, this time I'm doing it with you. I was like,
oh, that's awesome. When are you going to do it?
I'm going to start, I think, tomorrow. He's like, I want to talk to you about it tonight. I was like, okay. My traveling's done.
How do you feel when you're on carnivore?
I feel really great. Actually, it's probably the best I ever feel. I have no bloating, no gas. I wake up with a 6-pack every morning. It's like, it's like something that I absolutely love. The crazy part is you think about it as being expensive, right? Because steak and stuff isn't cheap. But then I think about all the other crap that I'm not going to be buying. And I'm like, really, is it that much more expensive? So this time around, I'm actually going to save all of my receipts and see what the difference is. Yeah, I'm going to see what the difference is.
And you know what? You eat less too. You're not eating 6 times a day. Like for me, like I was OMADing for a little while, but like with my digestive system is still healing. So I eat twice a day now. But you eat twice, or like, you eat a lot less than you would on the standard American diet. You know what I'm saying? So it's really not. Actually, I personally think I'm going to start doing what you're doing, the receipt thing. I like that. I honestly, like, it's not super expensive. It's really not.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like, I feel like I buy a lot of fillers and stuff. Like we eat a ton of vegetables, and I know I don't get along that well with vegetables. That's just how my body is. I do so much better when I'm straight carnivore, and there's so much taboo and stigma around that. But I'm telling you, I've done every diet under the sun. And when I go carnivore, I'm like revved up and ready to go. My brain is clear. I'm not hungry. I stay fasted for quite a while, happily. I sleep better. Like there's all these crazy things that happen.
Do you forget about food?
Yes, and like that's the only thing. Yeah. And that is one detriment, I feel like, because I'm like, okay, well, it would be great to like do these long fasts and stuff, and there are benefits, but especially as an athlete, you have to eat. Like it's really important to get a certain amount of calories in. It's important to get enough protein in. And so like I could totally forget about eating all the time. And so I have to actually be careful when I am doing carnivore or a heavy ketogenic diet. I have to be really careful that I am actually making sure and eating enough, because I just straight up forget. But adding to my carnivore this time, I am going to be ditching caffeine and coffee as well.
Oh, good for you. See, I haven't made it that far. I'm just not there yet. I can't do it. I can't. And maybe I will eventually, but that's like, I can't right now. No way. So you're not going to do coffee this month?
No, nope. It's
God bless you. Good for you. Have you ever quit coffee?
Yeah, so I intermittently quit it because I don't know if you know much about my story, but I have a major adrenal problem that I gave to myself via bodybuilding. Oh. And so I have been spending the last 2 years trying to remedy that. And so I like to be very careful about my caffeine consumption and when and all that. And I try to not be reliant on it. So I oftentimes drink a lot of decaf. I don't like to be doing caffeine frequently. So I do cycle intermittently on caffeine, but I am like, coffee is like my go-to thing that I just love to do, and that I really like, just me too, the taste of and all that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of that too, because I feel like if I can just take things back to the basics, I'm going to kind of get those sugar cravings gone too, because like I said, the sugar, I noticed that it's slowly kind of overtaking my way of thinking. And I'm like, I don't like being controlled by these kind of things.
Yeah. Good for you. That's awesome. You're going to have to let me know how that goes. Maybe you'll inspire me to give it a try. You know what? I have given it a try, and it's lasted about 48 hours.
Well, so I might be crazy. We'll see how it goes, but I'm definitely probably starting carnivore tomorrow. So it should be fun. And I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing how I look in a month or so too, because that's the other thing, right? I'm gonna run an experiment this time. I'm actually gonna take pictures when I start
Good.
and when I end because I've never really done that. And I honestly have gotten so far away from weighing myself and taking pictures and doing all these things
Good.
that bodybuilders do because I'm just like, who gives a shit? Do I feel good? Do I look good? I feel like I look great right now, and I'm in the happiest place I've ever been in my whole life with my career, my body, whatever. Like I
Yeah.
my what I'm eating, like I'm in a great place. But I'm like, I do want to have some metrics around my experiment on myself. So I'm actually going to weigh myself, and I'm actually going to take some pictures, and I'm just going to see what happens because I'm
Heck
curious.
yeah. Good for you. That's awesome. I can't wait to see the results.
Yeah.
And you
So
do. You get results with carnivore, like for sure.
Totally. So anyway, that's my segue off of that, but yeah, that's how
I
that's
love
going.
it.
So yeah. So I guess what kind of advice would you give to people that are thinking that they want to start getting off of pharmaceuticals? And then here's another one, and I'm going to throw this at you, and you may not have a lot of experiment or experience with it, but how about parents? Because I know so many parents that think that they can't their child has to be reliant on this stuff. And here's the other thing that you said back there that really struck a chord with me is children. Um Children now are eating so much sugar. Like their primary part of their diet is
Oh,
sugar, yet they're being diagnosed with all of these things like ADHD when in fact your blood sugar being all over the place and being on this I mean it's like a drug. Uh and then all of the
yeah.
diagnoses that follow it, and I feel like parents don't know that. Like the doctors aren't asking what their
Yeah.
diet looks like. They're just like, here's some Adderall or, here's some Concerta or whatever. And it's like I feel like they should be asking questions before they prescribe these things.
Yeah. So I'm a mother myself. I went through a phase with my daughter's father, and it was a touchy subject. She's an anxious kid. He wanted to medicate her, and that's a whole other story. But long story short, let your kids be kids. Don't compare them with other children. And whether you think your kid's anxious, depressed, ADD, ADHD, I think they should really start looking at what is their child doing? Are they on screens all day long? What are they feeding their kids? Is your kid eating sugar all the time? Because yeah, okay, maybe your kid is anxious, depressed, maybe he's got obsessive compulsive tendencies. But I'm not a doctor, but through my own experience, I like to think it's all related to gut health personally. And if we could start, nourishing our children a lot better and feeding them foods, real food, not a food out of a box, I bet we could start making some big changes. And like you said, like, you know, pre-diabetes and in kids is like off of the charts, and it's so sad. And like you see like so many chubby kids these days, and it's like, oh, they're so cute, they're just going through a phase. Like, no, what are you feeding your kid right now? Like they're going to be they're going to get diabetes, and it's sad, it's scary. I think I know I'm just rambling on right now, but literally, what are you feeding your children? And let your kid be a kid, because giving medication to a child that is with its brain developing, I mean, when I was medicated, like it took my childhood away. Like if I can just like stress it enough, man, like that should be your last resort. And then what was your other question?
Oh no, it
You
was
asked
just
me
like
another one about.
what was your recommendation to parents as far as, talking about these kind of things. But
And do like go to your, yeah, if you're gonna go to your doctor, like for, because everybody goes to their doctor for advice. Go other places too. Like do your research, books, the internet, like find out for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I highly recommend, if we have any parents listening to this, and maybe even yourself, if you have not read it, reading the book Gut and Psychology Syndrome. It's by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. It's on Amazon. It's $24. It's not expensive. I'm not getting paid to say this. It is one of the ultimate books revolving around gut health and psychiatric stuff. And they actually recently just changed the name of it to Gut and Physiology Syndrome, because they started like going, okay, well, wait a minute. The gut is related to everything, not just psychology. So why do we have this book named this? And it goes through everything about how gut health manifests itself in so many other things. And
Yeah.
so it's an incredible book, and I highly, highly recommend that people read it.
Well, you're talking about that. Also, if you are thinking about, getting off of psychiatric drugs, I strongly suggest picking up the book Anatomy of an Epidemic by Robert Whittaker. An amazing book. That is the book that opened up my eyes and literally changed my life. And then also the website www.innercompass initiative, that like literally will answer all of your questions. I just gave you my story. I'm not a doctor, just telling you what I've experienced and my thoughts on all of it.
I love that. And so if people want to find you, where do they do that at?
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram. My business website or Instagram is Brain Body Beyond. My personal is Meghann.Alice, and that's where you can find me the most.
Awesome. Well, I love that. I love you telling your story and getting it out there and helping other people maybe identify ways that they can start to make changes in their life. I think what you're doing is totally awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I've had a blast talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.